Hello everyone, so today I'm going to explain you the modal verbs, but first I'm going to explain you the meaning, what modal verbs we use in the present and in the past, and then we are going to apply those meanings to a sentence so you can do your rephrasings, okay? So first, for obligation we use must and have to. What's the difference? Must is for a strong obligation, so it's like a norm. For example, a norm in your school, and for have to, it's for an obligation. Like for example, if you have an exam, you have to study, but it's not a norm. Okay, and in the past you use had to. So, how do we apply this to a sentence? Imagine you have this sentence. It's compulsory for all visitors to show their ID card. How can we use must here? We would say you must use your ID card. Okay, so we are now expressing that it's compulsory by using the modal verb must. Okay, the next one is absence of obligation, so the contrary of the previous one. So we use don't have to instead of have to, and needn't or don't need to, but I think the most use is don't have to, so I would probably use that one. And in the past, didn't have to, didn't need to, and needn't plus have plus the past participle, so the third column. Okay, so how can we apply this to a sentence in the rephrasing? Well, first the sentence, it's not necessary for you to phone me back. So, lack of obligation is expressed with it's not necessary. So we say, you don't have to phone me back. Or you needn't phone me back, or you don't need to phone me back. Okay? So, the next one, it's prohibition. So, something you mustn't do. How do we use this in a sentence? You are not allowed to use the phone without permission. So, by saying you are not allowed, you are saying that this is a prohibition. So, you mustn't use the phone without permission. Okay? The next one would be an advice. So we use should or shouldn't or ought to. And in the past, you use the have and past participle. So how do we apply this to a sentence? If I were you, which is indicating advice, I wouldn't trust John. So you shouldn't trust John. As it's a negative, you use shouldn't. And if I were you, it's what is indicating that it's an advice, okay? Now, for a possibility, we use can or could, might, and may. And in the past, we use may, might, or could with have and the past participle form. Okay, so a possibility. In the rephrasing, it will be probably indicated by a word as perhaps. So, perhaps Emily knows the solution. So, Emily may or might or could or can know the solution. Okay? Going back to the modals. For ability or inability, we use can or can't. And it's important that we remember that in the past tense, we use was or wasn't able to. Okay? And also could or couldn't. But this form is only used for this. Okay, so if we apply it to the rephrasing, she managed to get it all done by yesterday. So we say she was able to get it all done. Because as it's by yesterday, it's in the past, okay? Well, and also the verb is indicating that it's in the past. Okay, so for offers and suggestions, we use can, would, or shall. So, for example, do you want me to open the window? That's something that you would say in class, for example. So, shall I open the window? Okay, so that would be how you say it. And that would be an offer. For permission, we use can, could, or may. And then for logical assumptions, which is very common in the rephrasings, if it's a positive assumption, you use must, and if it's a negative assumption, you use can't. So, and in the past, you use the same, but with have and the past participle. So, these two examples are similar, but one is in the positive form, and the other a negative assumption. So, in the first one, I'm sure he's home. This person is giving a reason why he or she is sure. That is that he's always home on Mondays. The same happens in the second one, but it's negative, okay? For the first one, it would be he must be home. You could say because he's always home on Mondays, for example. And in the last one, it would be he can't be home. He's never home on Saturdays. Okay? So this is everything with the modal verbs, and now we are going to explain the future. So now we go with the future tenses. The first one is will. So that's for predictions, immediate decisions, and promises. For example, they will probably come by train. That's a prediction. I'll help you. That's an immediate decision. The next one would be going to. That's for plans and intentions. For example, I'm going to buy a new car. That would be an intention. Then we have two forms of the present that have a future value. The first one is the present continuous, which is for fixed arrangement. An arrangement would be a plan that you have with someone, but you have already talked to him or to her. Okay, so for example, I'm having dinner with my sister tonight. That means that you have already talked to your sister about your meeting. Then the present simple, that's for scheduled events or for a timetable. For example, the flight leaves at 7, so that's something that's already scheduled. You could also say something related to your timetable at school. For example, I have an English class at 9. Okay, so for the future continuous, how is that formed? It's formed with will plus be plus the verb ing. And it's for actions which will be in progress at a stated future time. For example, this time on Monday we'll be traveling to Milan. In this timeline, now would be the starting point, and we're talking about something that we're going to do in the future. In this case, it's on Monday, okay? So that would be here. But it's not a specific point in the future, but it's something that lasts for some time. So we will be traveling this whole time. Okay, the next one, it's the future perfect, which is formed with will plus have plus the past participle, that is the third column. So we use it for actions that will have finished before a stated time in the future. For example, he will have finished the report by Friday. Okay, so if we go to the timeline, imagine this is Friday, and he will have finished the report at some point in the future. It can be here or here or here or wherever, but always before Friday and in the future. Okay, so he will do the report at some point in here, and by Friday the report will be done. Okay, so let's see this one in an example. The show ends just a few minutes before 10 o'clock. So in the rephrasing, we would say, by 10 o'clock, the show will have finished. That it's something that happens before 10 o'clock, okay? Okay, so now it's time for you to do your rephrasings.